Hey friends, it's Anna. Today's video is a very exciting one because I'm going to be showing you all my bullet journal spreads for 2023. We're going to talk about which spreads worked and which ones didn't, what art themes were my favorite, how journaling affected my life last year, and more. So grab yourself a drink or snack, get cozy, and let's get started. One A5 sized journal lasts me about 6 months, so I have two for 2023, but even though they're different journals, I wanted them to be roughly the same color, so when they're sitting on my shelf, it's easy to identify that they're from the same year. This journal from Shop Amanda Rach Lee was the one I started in. I'm sure you guys know of Amanda here on YouTube, and this journal was back from her 2021 collection, I believe. These are some of my general intro pages. I'm excited to show you guys how I tweaked some of these in my second 2023 journal to further improve them. And then we're going to skip a bunch of pages because I actually used this journal for a few months in 2021 and then took a break from bullet journaling and came back to it in 2023. This was my goals page for the year. I did really well with some of these and not so well with some others. For each goal I wrote on the left page, I created a tracker on the right page, which worked really well in the sense that it forced me to keep flipping back to my annual goals regularly, but it was also a little difficult to keep up with, especially since these pages weren't in my second journal. So I did change the format of this spread in my 2024 setup, and I'm thinking that will work even better for me. I'll link my 2024 setup video if you're interested in checking that out. As you can see, I used a black and gold space theme for my annual setup, which I still love looking at. Now we're getting into individual quarters and months. We're going to breeze through January because this is my least favorite artistic theme of the year. I think you guys will really be able to see my art improve as we go through each monthly theme, and that was really rewarding for me to witness my art improving throughout the year as well. When I decided to start this channel last year and share my journal online, part of that was because I did want to work on improving my drawing skills and being more creative in my journal. And not even with just the art, but also being more creative with how I was using the functional elements of bullet journaling as well. March was my mushroom theme, which was definitely one of my favorite artistic themes of the year. I'll go ahead and expand on some of the spreads you'll be seeing pretty consistently in some months to come. This is my notes for the month page, which I started doing last year. I have a place for intentions, a place for a rolling monthly to-do list, which I titled goals here, and I also started doing monthly reflections. Sometimes I wrote out reflection questions to answer, and sometimes you'll notice I just free write. I think reflections are something I want to incorporate even more in my 2024 journal. Maybe giving myself more space at the end of the month, or maybe even adding weekly reflections too. This is my typical weekly setup. I have a half-page column for each day, and I make a folding Dutch door out of this middle page by folding it in half. That way, no matter what day of the week I'm on, I'll always see my weekly task list, which is on the left side here. Sometimes when I don't use much space on each daily column, I'll reuse that weekly again for the next week and just draw a line and stamp the new dates in each column. Anything to keep my journal more efficient. This is a page I originally left blank to do a spread I never ended up doing, so I used the empty space to make a how to draw pumpkin short last fall. And these were some more blank pages that I used for a sunflower doodle. I feel like most journalers can relate to having some really random pages in there. This was a super fun collection of pages, my spring bucket list, where I created a collection of spring-themed books, movies, TV shows, and activities that I wanted to do during the season. I got most of the things on these lists from this spring starter pack video by Darling Desi, and I thought it would just be fun to make that into some bullet journal pages. On to the second quarter of the year, you'll notice I used quarterly spreads throughout 2023. I played around with some different layouts, but always had a rolling quarterly task list, and then tried to do some sort of breakdown for my annual goals. I don't think these spreads worked that well for me because I would always forget to use them. Maybe it's because this was my first year including quarterly spreads, so I wasn't used to them. But I still feel like I want a place in my journal for tasks that might not fall into my current month, but that I still want to get done relatively soon, like within the year or at least the next few months. So I'm trying out a someday tasks list in my 2024 journal. That's in my setup video as well. So we'll see if that maybe works better for me. May was one of my more unique artistic themes. I did some molecule art where I drew the chemical structures of some fun molecules like caffeine and then added some florals on top. This was a fun throwback to some of my college chemistry classes. This is also the month that I moved to a 1 line a day method for my mood tracker, where I basically write anything I want about my mood on the line for each day, which I really like because it gives me a lot more information and I don't have to choose just one mood to represent each day. Here you can see that I did a different weekly format because I think I was going out of town for the weekend and didn't need any daily spaces for Friday through Sunday, which is one of my favorite things about bullet journaling, is that you can adjust your planner in real time based on what you need for that day or week or month. June is another one of my favorite artistic themes with the sunflowers. And then I made a little tweak for my line a day mood tracker by adding a color key at the bottom for common moods and then highlighting those moods as they're written throughout the month. So that way I can still easily see any patterns in my mood. And that's it for my first journal that took us through the first 6 months of the year. Moving into the second half of 2023, I used this sand color journal from the brand Sequez, and I decided to stick with that same black and gold space theme for the first few pages here. My key is the same, but I updated my grid spacing guide to be a bookmark that I can take out instead of what it was in my first journal where I just drew the guide straight on the page. You can watch any of my journal setup videos if you want to learn more about these spacing guides, but all these lines basically just give you examples of different ways to split up the page, like if I want to split a spread into 3 columns or 4 rows. And this being a bookmark is so much more helpful because when I'm working on other pages in the journal, I can take out this bookmark and lay it directly on the spread and mark the different divisions instead of spending so much time counting each of the boxes. One of my favorite new spreads that I added to this second journal was my ideal day, because this past year I was really working on getting into a consistent morning routine and work schedule. And then my first monthly theme for this journal is my other least favorite artistic theme, but I was just so busy in July, I really needed to create something quick and minimal. You can see that the last few weeks I didn't even add any drawings to my weeklies, but that's okay because I always want my bullet journal to still be able to work for me even in really busy times. I didn't typically do a cover page for each month, but for August I really wanted to do a wine theme based on the lyric from Taylor Swift's song August, so I just had to create a cover page for this month so I could include that. You've probably noticed that I found a setup system that I pretty much stuck to for most of the year because I felt like it was really working for me. But right now I'm actually in the middle of reading writer Carol's book, The Bullet Journal Method. Ryder Carroll is the one who invented the whole bullet journal system, and even though I've been bullet journaling for I think 5 years now and gone through a lot of iterations in my journal, I've never actually learned his original method. So even though I like this system, there are still a few things that I think could be better, and I'm curious to see how reading that book will maybe change how I do some spreads in 2024. You might have noticed that in a lot of habit and mood trackers, I gray out, or I guess in this case brown out, some of the dates. And I usually do that when I'm out of town or for whatever reason went a few days without keeping up with the trackers. One of the things I've learned in my years of journaling is that it's more stressful than helpful for me to backtrack. If I fall behind on habits or even starting a weekly spread, it's not worth the time to try to go back and remember or create pages for days that have already passed, just so I can feel like my journal's complete. That was really hard for me because I'm a perfectionist, but I've been very intentional this past year about not making my journal a chore or something stressful. And even though I missed some days using the trackers, I think improving on some of these habits was still one of the biggest benefits I got out of my journal this year. 2023 was the first year that I've consistently had a habit tracker every single month. It's especially helped with my morning devotional. I wanted to be consistent doing a devotional first thing in the morning for a long time, and this is the first year that I did that multiple times every week. Meditation is another habit, one that I started for the first time this year, and even though I'm not great at consistency with that one yet, I started it in July, and 7 months later, here I am still actively working on my meditation practice every month. I mentioned this in my January 2024 setup video, but another book I'm reading right now is Atomic Habits. I'm really starting off the new year strong with a lot of self-help books, but I'm curious to see if that book will also influence how I do my habit spread. We're getting to the end of the year, and as you can see, I really started embracing some fall vibes for the later months. I think I really finished the year strong with my artistic themes because I think November and December are two of my favorites. I also started adding some special spreads for the holidays. November is the month of Thanksgiving in the US, and I had a give thanks spread where I could write 3 things I'm grateful for each day. I made it a little bit of a challenge by saying I wasn't going to write the same thing twice. That way I had to think a little harder about all the different things I'm thankful for and wouldn't write coffee for every single day because if you can't tell by this theme, I absolutely love coffee. And now we're on the last month, December, and my Christmas gnome theme. I wanted to do a cover page for this month as well, so I could add this Bible verse here on the left page. Let me know in the comments which theme was your favorite. I think mine has to be between this one with the gnomes and the mushrooms in March. I also did a little Christmas gift chart in December to keep track of our gift giving. And something else really fun about this month was I asked you all in my setup video for some gnome drawing ideas to create in the weeklies, and you guys came up with some awesome ideas. So this week I had gnomes in a snowball fight, we have a gnome putting up Christmas lights, and some gnomes hanging up stockings. So thank you guys for all those fun ideas. And that brings us to the end of 2023. I hope you guys enjoyed flipping through these journals with me and maybe got some inspiration for your own journal. Be sure to subscribe if you want to follow along with how I continue tweaking my journal setups. I hope you guys are having a wonderful start to 2024, and I'll see you in my next video.